Hi producer, do you want to learn 5 reverb hacks to transform your sound? Today I'm going to show you some really juicy music production tricks to take your music to the next level. Let's take the tour. Okay, so you're probably using tons of reverbs already in your mixes, sound design and music production. But are you familiar with the term bloom reverb? A bloom reverb, unlike your static reverbs, the hall and room reverb, which decays naturally with time, a bloom reverb will grow in intensity and complexity through time, as if the tails of the reverb blossoms. Thus the term bloom. And next up we're gonna use these bloom reverbs to create some really excellent effects. And a big thanks to UVI for sponsoring today's video with their latest reverb plugin, Bloom. Okay, so let's get going with reverb hack number 1, Bloom Reverb intros. And it's all about building anticipation and atmosphere in the beginning of your track. And this is all about creating an atmosphere and anticipation in the beginning of your track. So you can use anything from a stripped down version of your hook or some other like isolated melodic little phrase from a track. And to demonstrate this effect here today, we have a little rock track that I created with some friends. And we're going to take a listen to the beginning here, and I'll show you exactly how we can create a cool intro for this track. So here we actually have this like repeating little melodic phrase from the guitar. And this is like the perfect little phrase to use for our Bloom Reverb intro. So let's take a listen to this in isolation. The first step is to cut a little phrase from this, and we can use like 2 bars. And as I mentioned, you can either use a stripped down version from your chorus or a single melodic instrument. And we're gonna create a new track. And we're gonna duplicate this by holding Alt, dragging this to this new track. And we don't want to copy automation. Right, so let's solo this little phrase. And we're gonna place it all in the beginning of our track. Now the next step is to drench this with the Bloom Reverb. So let's add the Bloom Reverb to this track. In most reverb plugins there's always some great presets that you can use as a starting point for our sound design in this case. So we're going to press Default here and select another alternative preset. So let's go down to Ambient. Is probably going to do well for this little example. And here we have something called Ambient Large or Ambient Rise. Yeah, let's try Ambient Rise. And it's important that this kind of blooming reverb has a long decay length. So the decay is basically the length of your reverb tail. And for this ambient rise preset, the decay time is 7.3 seconds. And the size of the room is 20 meters. But yeah, let's take a listen how this sounds with this default setting. Yeah, so you can hear it has a very like nice, smooth and modulated tail. But for this effect we're going to use the mix level all to the top here, so we only get the sound from the actual reverb and not so much of the actual sound source. Yeah, so that's a nice sound, but of course we need more decay here because we want this to prolong for a very long time. So let's set it to 16 seconds instead. And you probably also want to have show spectrum analyzer so we can see the frequency. Yeah, so that's like a super quick way to create a cool atmospheric intro to your track. And as you can hear, it works very well with the rest of the melodies here on the bass because we're using the same melodic material from the guitar that also comes later here. So as you can hear, we instantly have a very atmospheric and great vibe here for the introduction of our track by just throwing a bloom reverb on some simple, small melodic phrase that already exists in your track. Cheers. Okay, another thing worth pointing out here is if you want a longer intro, or if you just want this effect to prolong for a longer time than, say, these 16 or 17 seconds, we can always use a function called freeze, which will actually freeze the reverb. And then you can have this reverb going on for as long as you need it. And then you can just use something like a volume fade or something to fade out the actual track whenever you want this effect to stop in your mix. So let's see how we can do that. We have this little snowflake here, and when we activate that, it's gonna freeze the reverb. But you will hear it's not gonna be like a static freezed reverb. It's gonna still be modulated and sound nice and smooth. So let's take a listen here. And then you can just add automation to fade out the reverb whenever you need to fade out the effect. So that's another way to prolong this bloom effect, or make this bloom reverb go on for the infinity. Okay, so reverb hack number 2 is called radio reverb. And I use this effect all the time in my music productions, and that's basically that we use any type of reverb, and we wash our sound, and then we apply some kind of radio-like equalize curve to our sound, so it sounds like it comes from an old radio. And you can hear that type of effect in the introduction to my new synthwave track called Neon Skies. Okay, so let's recreate this effect with the bloom reverb. So we're gonna create a new audio track, and we're gonna use the same kind of audio samples. Right, so we did bloom reverb on the track. Let's try something from the vocal presets. Let's try for chants. It sounds kind of nice, but you can hear it's a little bit laggy, and it's a little bit like after in the timing. And that's because we have a pre-delay here. And that's a little like delay before we get the actual reverb tail. So we can just reduce the pre-delay here, and we will get a tighter sound. And we're going to reduce the decay here, so it's a little bit tighter too. And now the final ingredient on this sound is to add some kind of radio effect, and we can do that with the basic equalizer in Logic. Just add a little bit of high pass at around 400 or 500 hertz, and a high cut at around 3K. And we can also give it a little bit boost here in around 1500 hertz, and let's take a listen. Let's also try this reverb in parallel mode. We're currently using it in single mode. That means that we have a single reverb engine. And parallel means that we will have a dual separate reverb engines running in parallel with slightly detuned sounds, and that's gonna give you like a very blooming and blossom sounds. Let's try it with parallel. I think for this effect we're actually gonna use the single mode, because the parallel mode gives it a little bit more like smudged and smeary sound. It's probably gonna work better for these like longer, more drony type of sounds that we did in our first reverb hack. But for this sound, we still want to hear a little bit of the transients and tightness from the original vocal recording. So then we're gonna use the single mode. Yeah, so you can see it's a really quick effect, but very effective. Let me know in the comments if you use these types of radio reverbs in your music. Okay, so our third reverb hack is actually reverb ducking. And you can use this effect on any type of instrument, may it be vocals, guitars, or any other instrument that you want to have a very defined instrumental sound, but still some reverb as soon as you have more like silent parts in the performance. So in this case, we're gonna try this on the vocals on this track. First I remove the reverb and delay so we get a very dry sound. Say you live in a simulation. Next up, we set up a send effect track. So we're gonna use bus send 5. And let's feed a little bit of the signal to the send track. And we're gonna add the bloom reverb. And let's try a vocal concert preset. But we're gonna increase the decay to like 5-6 seconds, and since this is a send track, we need to have the mix at 100%. Maybe we can also increase the trimming gain here a little bit. Now if you listen back to the track here, when we have the send effect at maximum volume and we have a lot of decay, we have the mix 100%, you get a lot of reverb all the time here. Say you live in a simulation. And now we're gonna clean this up by adding the ducking, and we do that with the compressors. We're gonna add the compressor after the bloom reverb. So we're gonna add the basic compressor of Logic Pro, and we're gonna activate the sidechain mode. And at the top of the plugin, we can choose the track to use as our sidechain, and we'll use that same vocal track as the sidechain input. And we're gonna turn off the auto gain and add a lot of ratio. We also flip to the vintage VCA compressor. And we can turn off auto and increase the release to about 170 milliseconds. And we're gonna activate the graph mode so we can actually see how this compressor compresses the sound. It's a dance perspective, walls of code and lies of data, hard to disconnect it, but tonight the city's breathing. Now you can hear we get a lot cleaner sound. As soon as we have vocals, we get less of the reverb, and as soon as we have more silent parts, we get more of that blossom reverb. Say you live in a simulation. It's a dance perspective. Walls of code and lies of data. Hard to disconnect it. But tonight the city's breathing. Underneath the stars. Feel the pulse, the end is humming. Healing all the scars. Whoa, neon sky. Yes, what do you think? Reverb ducking is definitely a personal favorite of mine. Another really cool thing here regarding finding presets that's suitable for a specific sound is going into the preset Voyager, which is kind of unique here to the Bloom plugin. And we press this little button at the top. And here we can see a whole bunch of dots, and all of these dots are basically different presets. And we get to see the categories of the different like colors. And these presets are gonna be grouped by the kind of type. So we get like spring reverbs in one area and room reverbs in one kind of region, and so if you find one kind of preset and you want something similar, you can always like browse in that area. So let's try sax hall. See how that sounds. Yeah, so that's a kind of hall reverb, and let's try find something in the same area. Rising ghost. A very long hall. So that's like a little unique way of browsing presets. So if you find something that you like, but maybe you want it a little bit different, we can just go in here to the preset Voyager and find something that's similar but a little bit adjusted. And there's also some other features here to change up the reverb or morph the reverb without going into parameters too much. And that is using this randomize parameter function. And there's also this mutate all parameters. So let's try this one and see how it changes all these different parameters just slightly here. So they are quite similar in sound. But if you want to go more crazy, you can always just use the dice feature here, which will randomize all the parameters of the preset. And you can see that you get a lot more like drastic changes here to all the different parameters. So randomize all parameter feature is gonna give you a lot more different changes compared to this mutate feature, which will just make smaller adjustments to the preset. Okay, so reverb hack number 4. This is the reversed reverb into phrases. So basically it means we take a small snippet of a vocal phrase and we reverse that, apply some reverb, and then we reverse that again, and then we place it so it exactly matches and leads into the actual vocal phrase. And this gives you this kind of ghostly and haunting sound. Okay, headphones on, and we're gonna apply this effect to the beginning of this track called Stillness, on the first vocal phrase.
Sitting here with you, though you fall away.
So we're gonna cut a small snippet here from the first phrase, and we're gonna add a new track, new audio track. Let's just move it below the original track, and we're gonna copy this below. So hold the Alt and drag this to the track below, and we can go into the track inspector and change the clip to reversed.
Yes.
And we're gonna apply reverb to this reversed clip. So go into audio effects, let's add a bloom reverb again, and we're gonna find some nice washy presets. So go into maybe the vocals, and let's see, maybe we can try vocal concert.
Yes.
And increase the decay.
Yes.
Because for this reversed reverb effect we want to have a long decay.
Yes.
And increase the mix, obviously. Yeah, so that's gonna be great. And we're gonna burn this and bounce this to audio. Next up we can increase the length. And we're gonna reverse this again. So now we have a totally reversed reverb. And we probably need to increase the gain also, because you can see it's quite low in volume. So increase it by like 12 dB or something. And we're gonna get rid of just the last snippet there. And we need to place this exactly where we have the first phrase beginning. Like so.
Sitting here.
And we can also shorten this a little bit and make a fade with the fade tool.
Sitting here.
Nice, and now we can listen with all the instruments in here. Hear this in context.
Sitting here with you, though you fall away.
And you can also make it even shorter if you don't want to have it such a long like suction into the phrase.
Sitting here with you, though you fall away.
Now using this reversed reverb effect sparingly in your intros and maybe some breakdown section, it can add a little bit of extra spice and production quality to your mixes. Give it a try. Okay, so it's time for the grand finale. Reverb hack number 5, that's reverb throw or spot reverb. And that means we're gonna add a splash of reverb on certain phrases. So we're gonna continue working on the same track here, but this is the second verse.
Empty room tonight, but I'm not alone.
So these are some really great places to place that kind of reverb through, or spot reverb. And to set this up, we need to create a bus to send this signal to a reverb bus. So we're gonna go into the track, and we're gonna send this to bus number 3. And on bus number 3, we're gonna add the bloom reverb. And for this effect, again, we need a lot of decay, so we're gonna add a lot of decay. We can also add a little bit of parallel, so we get 2 reverb engines. And we're gonna decrease the rise, or else we will get a gradual rise of the reverb. But for this effect, we really want the splosh to happen instantly. So we're gonna drag the rise to 0. And mix again, since this is a send effect, we're gonna use 100% in the mix. We can also increase the size a little bit. So let's hear how this sounds if we just set the send level to max here.
And you,
Yeah, so maybe we can decrease the decay just a little bit. Maybe we have it at like 6 seconds. So now, the only thing we need to do here is automate on and off here this reverb send whenever we want a splosh of reverb or a reverb throw. So now let's activate the automation right, hold Control, Command and press A. And that way we activate the latch mode. That means it will record things we do here on the track, the automation that we do.
and you tonight, but I'm not alone. In between breaths now, I can feel you close as the noise fades out.
Now let's set the automation to read and let's listen how this sounds.
And you tonight, but I'm not alone. In between breaths now, I can feel you close as the noise fades out.
Right, so what do you think about the effects we talked about here today? Let me know in the comments. I personally feel that using all these effects sparingly throughout your composition will definitely raise the quality bar, because it's gonna sound much more professional than just slamming a reverb on a track and calling it a day. Okay, so that's all for today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and by all means, if you want to learn more about the Bloom Reverb or check out the demo, check it out at UVI.net. Thanks for watching today. My name is Matthias. See you in the next video. Bye.
Be lost.